start getting that nutrition in, and simultaneously you're dealing with symptom management. So you're making sure everything that's going on their skin is helpful, is helping them rebuild their skin barrier and is digestible. And then we're looking at your home. What can you do to just decrease those inflammatory assaults that are just your kids that are bombarding them all day, every day?
Welcome to MyMD Unscripted, where healthcare gets personal and the script gets tossed. I'm Dr. Clint Carter, ER doctor turned direct primary care freedom fighter, on a mission to challenge how our healthcare system treats patients in America. In every episode, my expert guests and I dive into real conversations about what's broken and how we can fix it by making healthcare about people, not just managing disease. It's time to rethink what healthcare should be and how we can make it better together. Welcome to the podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the MyMD Unscripted Podcast. We have a treat today. I'm super excited to, oftentimes we'll have functional medicine doctor or, a provider, medical provider of some sort who, got out of the game and has got insight for us. But today we have an extra special treat, someone that everyone listening can absolutely connect with, because whether you're a doc, a nurse practitioner, a nurse, if you're medical or not, most of us are parents. All of us are caring for someone, and to have someone who, like our guest today, Andrea McHugh, who was just just being a mom, taking care of her kiddos, and just became so frustrated and stuck that, she had to come up with her own answer. So I'll start with the question, every parent knows the helpless feeling of seeing your child in pain. But what do you do when you go to the doctor and they've got nothing, right? Or what they do have either makes it worse or doesn't do anything. And you clearly can tell that they don't have the answer for you. What do you do? And our guest today, Andra, came up with some solutions. So Andra, tell us a little bit more about yourself, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure, Clint. Thank you so much for having me, or Dr. Carter. Sorry.
Clint's great, by the way. That's great.
My name's Andrea McHugh. I host the Eczema Kids Podcast, and I'm a mom of 4 now, but 6 years ago, I was mama to 3 girls who each had an autoimmune condition, and 2 had severe eczema. And I took them to the pediatrician, as one does when you have sick children. And the guy told me, well, here are 2 prescriptions for steroids because this is really bad. And I was like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm here. I just don't know what to do. And he said, use them both on both, put gloves on yourself, because these are very toxic substances, and throw some bleach in their bath every night. Go ahead and put the 3rd one in too. Like, it's fine. It'll just help, kill the staph on the skin. And this is just something that you're going to have to manage. Like, I was like, should I take eggs out of the diet? I don't know. It seems to be making a difference. He's like, oh goodness, no, they need protein. So don't consider like anything like that. Just, hopefully that they'll grow out of this. And I was in the office and I was holding my month-old baby in one arm and holding the hand of my 2-year-old with the other. And I just thought, this cannot be, and then in the same breath, he said, he lifted up the sleeve of his shirt and he said, I have psoriasis, and this has just been a lifelong condition for me. And it's just, it's okay. Like, we're just managing. And I just left there thinking, this can't be it. This isn't the story for my month-old baby and my 2-year-old who had their entire lives ahead of them. And, we were in the season where I was not sleeping, not 1 second a night, because they were both just calling out all night long.
Oh.
My 3rd one had celiacs. I didn't know. And she was throwing up every night. And, it was such an impossibly hard season. And then to be looking at somebody in a white coat saying what they were saying, I just thought, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, this can't be, I will never be back here. And I wasn't, and we haven't been. And now, thank goodness, all 4 of my kids are thriving and doing amazing. But yeah, it was a long road.
I love that, I think the question I'm supposed to ask here is, so what was the moment that you knew that, there had to be more? And of course, it was at a doctor's office. Of course, it was at a doctor's office.
Yeah.
Because we're trained to treat and or try to control, in this case, disease at its fruit, without real, and to the extent we were not trained about roots, we have no idea. Like literally, we have no idea what we're doing. And so it's not unless your doc goes to, functional training and starts learning and reading and going to all that work to think that there is a root problem to a tree with poor fruit. So here you are, you're leaving the doctor's office, in potentially in tears going, my babies are, what am I going to do? You're sleep deprived at that point. So, I can only imagine. So what was the next step for you? Your doctor doesn't have the answers. What, did you go Google it? Like what was next?
Like a lot of Googling, but more so reading. I just started to get so many books from so many doctors and some very, very smart people about very singular subjects. And I read at night, like in between those night wakings, because it just wasn't worth it. Fall asleep, but I was still working. I was a dental assistant at the time, and I was helping a hygienist do OSHA seminars. So and this was 2019, 2020. So then that was blowing up because then COVID and all the things. So infection control was quite serious at the time. And so, there was no time during the day, but at night I would just read these books and take copious notes and just start to incorporate it. And the fastest way that I could incorporate my learnings was in the kitchen, was at, the next meal, every time that I fed, my kids or myself, because I was nursing. I just started to focus on how can I possibly get as many nutrients into them and to me as a nursing mom that I possibly can. How can every single bite be loaded with iron and zinc and all of those things that I was oh, of course they're deficient in these nutrients because they don't have a skin barrier, right? It's not functioning at all. And they're not digesting their food. There's constipation issues. There's just so many things that are going wrong. So that's what I did. I read. I have an English literature master's for no reason. I decided until that, it made me a pretty adept researcher. And what I learned was mind-boggling. Is I started to look in, take kind of an Ayurvedic view of the situation. That really helped me a lot. Just get a handle on it as a mom. Just that sort of school of thought is looking at it in properties, kind of aligning their circadian rhythm. Try to, understanding that increases and that opposites balance. Those types of ideas really helped me, with their care.
So, eczema at its root is autoimmune. And then you said your third kid came along and was also autoimmune. And so, it's real easy to say. And it's, when you take your kid, they're having allergic symptoms to something, they're getting a rash of some kind, and the doc's like, oh, let's do some allergy testing, see what they're allergic to that kind of thing. And that's a fairly limited process. How did you decide that autoimmune, where did that come into play? Obviously, the American diet's relatively nutrient poor, and then they had a skin barrier breakdown issue. So there was a huge nutritional deficiency. And even, if you just go to the grocery store and you just buy green beans, they've got 1/6 to 1/10 of the nutrients they used to have, when I was a kiddo. So, the real question is, how are you going to get these nutrients in them? And how did you decide what was going to start making the biggest difference? Was this all trial and error? How did that go?
A lot of trial and error. And, there's some things that really do move the dial. I'd say spirulina is one, fresh faced spirulina. It's super high in protein, super high in minerals. It's something that's almost tasteless that you can work into a lot of things. Cause these are kids, right? So you can't be shoving a bunch of capsules down their gullet. That's not going to fly. And you really have to start with this food as medicine approach. And then as a nursing mother, I had to be so careful about I don't want to I can't detox myself too much, right? And give all of that to my baby via my milk. So
Oh, that's a good thought. Yeah, you can't just do it all at once.
Right,
Right.
right. Like you had to be really cautious about that stuff. And I knew there was like some pathogens going on in there, and I knew I needed to restore their gut health. Like I
Yeah.
knew just that was the the control alt delete that I had to pull. And you hear that term and it sounds so big. And it is. And it's very
It's big.
multifaceted.
No, it is big. In
It is.
fact, and I think it sounds simpler than it is. Oh, a
Yeah.
little gut health. Okay. What do I do? Take some fiber. What do I do? You're like,
Yeah.
you kidding me? It's a war zone in there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, right? Like when your skin is falling off, that's a mirror of what's happening right in your intestinal skin, right? Your intestinal
Yeah.
skin. It's the
Right.
exact same way. And
Oh,
so that's really like how I viewed them at that time. It's like I just could see through it's just their outer skin and just like see their intestinal skin. And it's just like and it didn't help like obviously my stress levels or anything else. It's just like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And so prebiotics like demulcentants, like we started incorporating herbs like licorice root and marshmallow root and slippery elm bark, things like that. Spirulina, like I said, ghee is another super food,
yeah.
that like your body create butyrate, and that's a short chain fatty acid. I know everyone
Nice. Yeah.
knows that, right? So the beneficial microbes would love to eat that. Sprouts are something that you can do at home with minimal effort that really pack this nutritional punch. My baby's first food was pate. Like that is thankfully she didn't know any better. And I knew it's like what
Heck
can
yeah.
nature's multivitamin is organ meats, right? Like I don't like more organ meats. Like I didn't eat it with her, but she didn't know any better, thankfully. And it was just like chicken livers and ghee and onion,
Yeah.
like all food processed up, and she ate that until like she literally filled those nutritional gaps. She was so deficient in zinc, so deficient in iron, so deficient in so many things, and like that really helped fill those holes.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, I mean, it honestly does work. Food is medicine. It's what it's there for. It's why we eat, right? And is to sustain life and to grow and help with cell regeneration. And it's just I just focused on like what can I possibly do to make each round of cells regenerate healthier. And that's what I did. So I mean, like you said, there's plenty of information out there. Like there's so many like holistic cookbooks and things like that are really honestly fun to read. The GAPS diet, the Dr. Natasha Campbell, she helped me a lot to just understand. Like, I mean, she puts like eczema and autism on the same spectrum.
Mm.
And there's just a lot of like behind the scenes things that I was starting to understand, and through books like that diet specifically doesn't help with eczema, but like the thought
Yeah.
process behind
Yeah.
it helps.
Yeah. It's philosophical.
Yes.
It's like, what direction are we going in? Food is medicine, but food is also poison. So
Right.
where how do I and I don't know which one's which. So that's a problem. So how do I
Right.
get there? Right on.
Right. Yeah. And then it's extra confusing because things like, bone broth and fermented foods like that are touted as like the gut health holy grail, right? And of course they are
Yeah.
like healthy, great foods. And your child has like a gut health problem, or if you're an adult experiencing eczema, exact same thing. You're having a gut health issue and you just like start to focus on those types of foods. But with eczema, then there's this histamine component as well. And so those
Yeah.
foods are super high in histamine. They add heat to the body. And when you're treating like this heat based condition, and this is where like that Ayurvedic approach really helped me understand, is like that's going to exacerbate the issue. So it's taking into account so many things. It's not just like, oh, kale is healthy, so eat kale. It's like raw kale is not going to do you any good, right? You got to deriv it. You got to take out all the like undigestible parts. You have to cook it. All that, you really have to think about it as just what can you digest? What can my child digest?
Love it. So, man, I guess maybe next is, I'm curious how long it took you. So your babies were like, newborn basically, and 1 or something, right? When this all went down. So how long did it take you to start making some traction for them?
I could see some traction in a couple weeks.
Oh, wow.
Once I took out everything processed, and we were healthy. Like if you, like we were the healthy friends. I'm like the healthy person in my family. Like they think I'm a crazy person because,
Right.
feed my kids like Eggos and stuff. It's just they like we were eating healthy foods, but even in a healthy diet, you're if you take a step back, it's actually quite amazing how many processed foods that you're eating.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Even if you're like really trying. And my husband and I are fit people. Like, we filtered our water and we did gluten-free and dairy-free. It's just that once I took out all processed foods, like ketchup, like every single thing, right? And there was the organic healthy ketchup, I took out that's when I started to make some traction. And then simultaneously, I was addressing the skin, and everything that I was putting on the skin, I understood needed to be digestible, because it's your body is digesting it just the same, and it's running through your liver, and their livers are already so burdened, clearly, by the looks of their skin. And so
Yeah.
I started making herbal oils. And that, I would say, just getting rid of all processed foods and herbal oils. Like when you infuse herbs into an oil, we use jojoba oil. Either you just like the heat method, or you can just like leave them in oil for a long period of time. That infusion method, when you put the oil on your skin, the strained oil, it's because of its lipophilic properties, like fat likes fat, it drives those anti-inflammatory, antifungal nutrients straight into the tissues. And that really, really helps with that cellular turnover. It's a practice derived from Abhyanga. It's an Ayurvedic practice that's been followed for thousands of years. And it's just like everything that I put on their skin, it was basically like taking supplements through the skin. So it's just like one layer
I love that.
nutrition.
Well, once again, I love that philosophy. It's really, to have a philosophy that's whole, that's consistent within itself, right? You can't be like, okay, I'm going to do all this holistic stuff and I'm going to put a bunch of, pharmaceutical chemicals on the skin, right? Like those two things are, they don't match. I mean, there's probably a place for a steroid at some point in a bad enough situation, but we're talking about a lifetime of health and prevention and what's going to work, and really why are they in such a bad spot that we are now desperate enough to apply steroids. So there's elimination diets that people do and all that kind of stuff. Did you get into that? And then tell us about what you do, like, because at this point it's not just about your kiddos. You're reaching out to, or now they're reaching out to you, other moms and families that have eczema or probably other autoimmune things. What does that look like? What's your eczema elimination method look like? Tell us a little bit more about the details.
Sure. So we start, in the kitchen, and we just talked about that, because that's like the first place you can start. To start at the next meal and start getting that nutrition in, and simultaneously you're dealing with symptom management. So you're making sure everything that's going on their skin is helpful, is helping them rebuild their skin barrier and is digestible. And then we're looking at your home. What can you do to just decrease those inflammatory assaults that are just your kids that are bombarding them all day, every day? And, there's a lot of sometimes there's mold going on in your house, and you'll know that just because likely there's somebody else in your family that's dealing with some sort of autoimmune issues. And sometimes there's issues with the water, EMF is something to contend with. There's so many things, there's so many changes. He's been in a very healthy home that you can absolutely do to help the air quality, water quality, to just help, while they're sleeping, help their, that theta state not be interrupted by so many things. And then we go into supplements and just help open up those detoxification channels, help them digest their food, help fill those nutritional gaps that they undoubtedly have. And then if you've been walking that road for a while, then we can go into testing, because once you've done steps 1 through 4, right, you will be better. And for some, you're not 100% there. For most, you are. 85% of my clients, you're there. But
Nice.
for myself
Wow.
and for my kids and for the other 15%, then we have to move on to testing. But then that's when I know like that data is actually going to bear fruit because you've calmed down the system like as much as you can, right? And we've taken out the triggering foods and we've taken out the extra assaults. And, and then from there we make a new plan, a new diet, and a new supplement protocol just to get us the rest of the way there. Because then you're dealing with, there's inevitably like a pathogen living inside that we're going to have to contend with. And, I have a lot of adult clients as well, because it is the same, even if you're not, if you're not a pediatric patient. But I love working with kids because they do turn it around so quickly once they get the right inputs in place. Right? They're just little machines and their cellular turnover is so fast and they really bounce back. And, I see there's so many families that have been living this way, that haven't been sleeping, that have been worried about, you're scared to feed your kid and I wonder if it's like that worry. I used to be there too, because you did an allergy test the couple years back and they said this and this, and your child is reacting from rolling in the grass and you're considering rehoming your dog and all the things. I mean, it's so stressful and so hard. And it's just amazing the turnaround when you just get these things in order and we just take it step by step, because you can't do it all at once. You just do what you can today, right? And then we have a plan for tomorrow and you just keep on going. And when you're just consistent with these small incremental changes, you get the results. And then you're in it and you see it. And like every diaper change, you're like, oh my goodness, their skin is a little bit clearer. Oh my goodness, like I can tell that they're less itchy. Wow, now they can sit on the floor, without scratching. Like I can take off the scratch sleeves. And, as they get older, they're not as self-conscious about their, with their friends and birthday parties and participate. And it's miraculous, really.
Well, I love that, number one, kiddos, the younger you are, the faster you turn everything over, the healthier your body is at baseline. But also there's sort of the, I guess it's a psychology thing. I think Jordan Peterson put it in his book too. It's like, take care of yourself like you're somebody that you care about, right? So like these kiddos, the mom is like mom guilt all in. No way I'm letting my kiddos, let this be a thing. And so the younger children, especially, once you get teenagers, all the rules go out. But once, the younger kiddos, especially, they're going to eat what mom gives them to some extent, if you can make it edible. But then you get the mom herself and she's like, well, I'm busy and I'm out, and I got a gift card to Chick-fil-A and we're just going to do what we do. But, so there's also less immediate results with adults because we don't follow the rules as well. We don't take care of ourselves like we would our own kids.
Yeah. But thankfully, the tide rises all ships, right? So like when somebody in your family is struggling with this, or maybe there's multiple members, everyone does inevitably get healthier in your family.
Yeah.
And just what's available in your home has risen, like the bar is higher. And so you just don't purchase the junk. And I love like, 2 and under, right? They'll just eat what you give them. And then, but 3 and over, like if they're experiencing these types of issues, they're motivated to change, right? Like they don't want to live like this. And so that's where, the older kids, like sometimes the buy-in is hard, but they don't want to live like this. And they really do you have to have their buy-in, but they'll gladly give it because they need to change.
Well, I think what I love about teenagers especially is they don't, on one hand, you can get them when they're super motivated and they'll go all in. And then pretty soon they'll be like, I don't want to be different from my friends. And my eczema is not really that bad. I've got diabetic teenage patients, right? And my daughter's best friend was just in the ICU because she just didn't, she just didn't feel like, she just wasn't that worried about it. And, she knows how to control it, but she just didn't want to be diabetic. Honestly, just didn't want to be diabetic. So she just wasn't going to be. And then she was almost died. And you're like, baby, we're all angry at you. Like our emotion was almost more angry than sadness because we're like, better.
Yeah. Don't
pretend that the truth is not the truth. And so, obviously you get a teenager decides to she wants to eat what all her friends are eating. And the next thing you know, she's got a big old eczema outbreak. Oh, okay. That is true. Right.
Yeah.
So there is sometimes, there this gonna be an adult soon person. And then our adult patients, it's like, is it really true? Because like right now I'm gluten-free personally, like me. I'm
Okay.
gluten-free because I had a part of my spinal cord that demyelinated. It's called transverse myelitis. And it was probably a COVID thing. And I went gluten-free and did a bunch of stuff. And then I blew it off. And then eventually I went back to my normal, relatively healthy, but probably you wouldn't think so, lifestyle. And then it came back. I'm like, whoa. This is supposed to be a once and done sort of weird one-off thing. And so now I got it to go away. I'm doing and I'm doing gluten-free. I don't feel different. I have no idea if I'm eating gluten-free or not based on how I feel, my skin, my gut, nothing. And I'm just like, am I just going to do this forever? And you would argue, well, it's better for you anyway. And that's kind of where I'm at. But to the extent that like as an adult, I could really go for some pizza. And it just so happens that's a bad example because there's some pretty good gluten-free crust out there, but it's still full of, in your world, you would say it's still full of junk. It's still full of processed junk. So, where do we, draw the line? And I do think that the proof is in the pudding, when you start going on. Fortunately for me, I haven't had my spinal cord demyelinate again, but with eczema, you get a little faster, decision leap. Like, okay, I ate junk and then it flared back up. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, if you're doing really well for a while and your gut's pretty healthy, it may not be that immediate of a turnaround, huh?
What we do is like, I keep working with my clients until they're done, like until they've reintroduced everything. And, the way I handle my kids, we're 80-20. Everything that I buy, not everything, but like the food that I serve for meals is healthy. Right.
Yeah.
And they're 3, 6, 8, and 10. So sometimes they eat it and sometimes they don't. And, it just, that's how it is. And they're all involved in dance and swimming and whatever. And every single reward for any sort of athletic accomplishment or just our participation is sugar. And we're talking on October 30th. Okay. So I don't know how many grams of sugar all my kids have had this week, not even before tomorrow, because there's trunk or treats everywhere. Like I don't drive them to any, they just get there. And then of course we're going to do Halloween and go to the parties and do the trick or treating. The point is just like the goal is food freedom. That's the goal. And kids can 100% get there. They can. We can heal and seal the gut lining. But for that, during that healing time, no, like, no. Yeah, you're going to be a little different than your friends. Like that. And this is a dedicated 3 months time. And if you can really, really dial it in, and if you have a history of steroid use or other pharmaceuticals, biologics, like they're prescribing biologics for like kids that are 2 now.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Really sad. But anyway, that extends out your timeline. Any sort of like pharmaceutical use in the past, which is fine. That's okay. That's still like, we're talking about like half a year. Okay. And just eating real whole foods. It's not like dieting. It's not like not eating. It's just, you're still getting plenty of calories. You're still getting plenty of protein. Like you can still have sugar, we still have dessert every day. Even when we were healing, desserts every day. My kids will not accept anything else. It's just, you just adjust. You make different things and you make it, I think is the biggest difference, right? Like there's fewer packages, more stirring.
Aren't you? Yeah. More work for mom. Aren't you? I mean, but at some point though, there's a philosophical switch in the home and in the minds of at least the adults in the room. And then maybe the kids are just raised in it and it becomes normal. But also like, you can't just go right back to the packaged everything once you're healed, because the gut lining is not invincible. It's just, it's just healed for now.
But you don't want to, like after going through this, and you can't unknow what you know. And like I said, like I look at my kids like intestinal lining, right? When I see them eat some like Skittles or something like flat out poison, I'm just like, I still let them and whatever, it's fine. But that's what I see. It's just like, that's my motivation, because I know what it looks like to live in that world of dis-ease. Like that's not a fun place to be. You're not thriving, you're not laughing, you're not enjoying life, you're not enjoying your kids. Like it's a horrible place to be. And so I think silver lining of having that experience is that, yeah, you're just highly motivated to never go back there. And that's what and it motivates me when I'm cutting the cauliflower. Like, it's just like, of course you do this. Like there's no other option.
Are you helping folks with other conditions other than eczema with this basic same strategy?
Well, even the Western medicine world acknowledges the atopic triad, right? Where it's like eczema and asthma and hay fever, it's all connected. And when they say, oh, don't worry, they'll grow out of it, right? Then your 8-year-old has asthma, right? And like if you're not addressing the inflammation, it's not going to just go away. It's going to maybe morph into something else, or just that is going to plague them for the rest of their lives.
Well, and outside the triad, I do think like what about ADD? What about, so much of what our kiddos are going through now has to do with what they eat and their gut health and all of that stuff. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a functional medicine expert at this point in the game, and not all autoimmune is the same, and not all inflammatory processes are the same. But with what you're expounding, seems like it would be a pretty good start for most folks who are trying to figure out what to feed their kids and where to sort of start addressing the things that the doctors just want to throw like stimulants and other things at them.
Yeah. Well, eczema is like the gateway drug, but I don't specifically like treat other conditions because it's just not my wheelhouse. But yes, by association, right? The child's behavior gets better, right? Like even if there isn't ADHD, a lot of them already have been diagnosed with ADHD. A lot of them have been diagnosed with autism. A lot of them have been diagnosed with like sensory processing disorders and that's what I love what you're doing, right? The head bone is connected to the neck bone and like everything is this aligned. And so yes, everything gets good news. Everything gets better. Everything gets better. Every single
day. I love it. I mean, the doctor in the room, I'm allowed to say it. Yeah. You're not allowed to necessarily say this treats everything. Yeah. Your experience shows that you make eczema better with your system. You're not a physician, and nothing that you're doing requires a prescription. So it's all great. However, I will say that it is not a leap of faith to say that what's hitting eczema is going to be hitting a lot of stuff that's plagued a generation or 4 since our food has really just kind of spiraled out of control, So, man, gosh. So I'm a doc. There are other providers listen to my stuff because they're sort of beat down. They're in the system. They're looking for a better way. It equals a sense of hope. Most of our audience are people that are looking to be healthier in general. But as for the providers out there, like, someone comes in and their patient is you that day with your 2 daughters and the eczema, and, what's the first step? What's the first thing that the doctor can do, the provider can do in the room to set that on the right path?
I think just one, let them know that your goals are aligned. Like, okay, we both want your child to be better. We both want your child to be well. And, like I had a hard time because it felt like you're not for us. Like you're against us because now you're not going to have to deal with the aftermath of this. When I put these steroids on, that's going to thin their skin barrier. And then we're going to have to go through TSW. And then these flares are going to come back even worse than they were before, which isn't even imaginable at this point. So that's why I didn't go down that road. But, and then in that same appointment, he also said, oh, and you're behind on your vaccines. And is like, wait, what? This child is clearly immunocompromised right now, right? Like, let's not they can't handle anything more. Let's not, no. And so that, I think if you can just and believe it and know it, like, don't say it if it's not the truth, but it's obviously, if you're listening to this, of course, that's the kind of physician that you are. It's like, okay, we both want your child to be well. And I think if they can understand that and, then they can trust you. And if you're willing to just think outside the box just a little bit and really put an emphasis on this food as medicine, especially for these pediatric patients, that goes a long way.
And you're talking to a teammate here. right? You're talking to a mom. The patient is helpless.
Yeah.
So you're talking to the mom. It's okay to say, listen, I don't know. Like if someone comes in right now, my next patient, I'm going to be like, listen, I don't know all of it.
Yeah.
But I just talked to someone who's pretty awesome at it. And first things first, let's clean up the diet. And I don't even know exactly what that means, but there's information out there. And so if you can just set that mom, that dad, that patient advocate on the right path to start even knowing to look for that information, I feel like that's a good first step. I don't like I said, I'm not functional medicine trained. I'm not the expert in any of it. I do the best I can with what I've got for now. But the point being is that I acknowledge that is a better pathway and that there are people that can help them, if not me. And so I think that is kind of where I would go next as the answer to that question is to, yes, affirm the mom's concerns, tell them there is a better way, and then, figure out what resources we're dealing with. And it might be a mom on the verge that doesn't have the bandwidth to do all that stuff. And maybe I just need to stop the crazy for a minute. I have chemicals for that. I'm a drug dealer. However, we need to have them back when mom's got a little bit more bandwidth and have that discussion again.
Yeah. And just like, if you prescribe stuff, just prescribe it with a plan. Like this isn't a forever. This is okay. Right now, it's really bad. Let's get everyone sleeping. And then let's get the other ducks in a row, start to align everything else. And then let's work on a weaning protocol.
And then I will point them to this podcast and tell them to look you up. So how would they find you if they need to get some more information or maybe reach out to you and get your help? How would we go about that?
Sure. The Eczema Kids Podcast is out there, and we've been running for almost 4 years now. And my website is eczemakids.com, and you can find all the things there. We have skincare, prebiotic tea, and then we have a whole eczema elimination method, and where we really just take you through this process, and you get one-on-one coaching and boxer access and all the tools that are part of the skincare line and things like that, just to really, really conquer this and get your life back on track.
Wow. Andra, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for what you're doing. It's awesome. Thank you for not just accepting the bad answer that you were given. I think that's first. So much of us have, gotten where we are in either the functional world or the direct primary care world or some of the alternative medical scenarios is because we just can't settle anymore. So keep it up. Thanks for the people you're helping. And thanks for coming on the podcast. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.
Welcome to MyMD Unscripted, where healthcare gets personal and the script gets tossed. I'm Dr. Clint Carter, ER doctor turned direct primary care freedom fighter, on a mission to challenge how our healthcare system treats patients in America. In every episode, my expert guests and I dive into real conversations about what's broken and how we can fix it by making healthcare about people, not just managing disease. It's time to rethink what healthcare should be and how we can make it better together. Welcome to the podcast.